My name is Genevieve Mina. I'm speaking on behalf of the National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum. We're the only organization that speaks and advocates for women's justice, reproductive rights, immigrant rights, the full intersectionality of all of these issues for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, which are a huge demographic here in Anchorage, in Alaska. We're largely an invisible community. We're largely stereotyped as being mild-mannered, as assimilating to this dominant culture, but we do have a voice. We care passionately about these issues, and we really want to put ourselves out there in solidarity for every other demographic and every single member of these communities who are impacted by reproductive justice. I just wanted to take a time to talk a little bit about choice and agency. We're all here because we care a lot about being pro-choice and having the ability to choose what we want to do with our bodies. I'm born and raised here in Anchorage. This is the only place I've ever known, but all of my family emigrated from the Philippines. And when I think about being born and raised here, I'm born here because of the choices that my family was able to make so that I could live a life here in Anchorage. Because with the Philippines, we're a community and a people that have been colonized for over 300 years by the Spaniards, by the Japanese, by the Americans. And for so many generations, people in my heritage and my ancestors did not have the ability to choose for themselves, to determine what their lives were going to be, and make choices that matter to their health care and for their families. I'm here because years and decades ago, my grandma grew up poor after World War II when her family farm burned down. And after having 4 kids, she realized that she was really making ends meet and that she couldn't take care of another children in her family. She was really lucky because in the 60s and 70s, she was able to have access to get a copper IUD, which is still something like, it blows my mind that I didn't even know that a copper IUD has existed for that long. And because of that, she was able to raise her family so that my mom could go to nursing school and to go to college. And then decades and decades later, when my parents were able to emigrate here in the Philippines, they brought my brother over when he was 5, and years later, when they were pregnant with me, within the first 6 weeks, because of screenings, they thought that I might have been born with Down syndrome, which was a really difficult decision for them to figure out, do we want to go through with this difficult decision? Do we want to abort? Or do we want to take care of this child that we want to bring into this world? And they decided to stick through with it, and it grew up to be a healthy child. But the real important thing here is that they had that choice, and they had that ability. And after that, my mom just got her tubes tied. And so it's like, we should all be able to have this choice and support each other to have access to safe, healthy abortion for people who need it, for people who don't have the same circumstances to have care of their kids. So going back to a little bit of this organization that we're a part of, the National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum, really long title, but NAPAWF, look us up on Facebook. We have an Anchorage chapter. I want to talk a little bit about like the specific concerns of the Asian American Pacific Islander community. Reproductive justice is really important to us because there's a lot of racist stereotypes that are at the intersection of the API community. That like people from China, don't want their babies, and we have to legislate so they're not going to kill like their like extra children that they're going to have, like the one-child policy. And the fact of the matter is that among Chinese and Indian and Korean communities, there are actually more like female children than male children. So that's just like a huge stereotype that we have. But secondly, our community faces a lot of attacks on our people. A couple of years ago, Purvi Patel was a woman who went through a miscarriage. Her doctor reported it. She was charged with feticide, and she had to litigate against this case for 3 years until she was free. Baby Shui was another woman who suffered from depression, who was pregnant, who tried to commit suicide, and in the event of this action, she lost her child. She survived the suicide, But again, she was charged with feticide, and she had to deal with that case for 2 years. When we talk about reproductive justice, we have to think about how this impacts our immigrant communities, our refugee communities, undocumented people, everybody, people with disabilities, every single one of us who feels like we don't have a voice in the society that we have been born into. And we need to make sure that we use our voice to empower others, and to make sure that other people have the same privileges and opportunities that we have. So, I mean, if people know me, they know that I love voting. If you have the ability to vote, vote because not everyone can vote. Vote because my aunt has a green card and can't vote. Vote because there are people who don't have their citizenship and they aren't able to make the same decisions in these matters as you guys. Every single election matters, and we need to make sure that whether it's at the municipal level, the state level, the presidential level, everyone has to turn out, especially young people, especially women, non-binary, and gender non-conforming people. Everybody needs to turn out. If everyone here came out repeatedly and kept having their voices be in the conversation about these issues, our world would be completely different, right? So I just want to thank you for coming out. If you're someone who identifies with the Asian American Pacific Islander community and you want to get involved in our organization, talk to us. I'm aggressively in white, and I'll be hanging around back here. Sign up with me, look up our organization. But right.